Advent is a 2024 horror film that blends modern internet culture, folklore, and the creeping dread of the holiday season into a supernatural thriller. Directed and written by Arel Anthony Hales, the film centers on a cursed Advent calendar that transforms Christmas countdowns into a deadly game against a malevolent force, sometimes referred to as Krampus or the devil himself. Hi, I'm Natasha.
And I'm Cassandra.
And this is Strange Sisters. And hopefully, this is the last time we'll be off camera. We're gonna switch some things around, hopefully by next week. But today we are off camera, and I am very grateful for it because I'm just looking like a hot mess.
Don't worry, guys, I'm still very festive behind the camera.
Yeah,
I've
it's a
even
way
got
of
my
thing.
black tree up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've got a little black Christmas tree. Actually, I've got a couple little different colored Christmas trees, but
I want to get
anyways.
a white one with like black ornaments.
Oh, that would be cool. Very like The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll just get right into this one then. So, I had suggested this movie and I looked up where it was streaming and I thought it was the right movie. And then I went to go watch it last night and it was a different movie with a very similar name. So, this is not the movie that we had planned on watching, but I think it was still a pretty good movie.
Ironically, this has been my favorite movie that Natasha's chosen.
Even though I didn't technically choose it, but yeah, it's kind of funny. The movie that I meant for us to watch is called The Advent Calendar, and this movie's called Advent, and both take place in Europe. And so when I first started watching it, I'm like, oh, maybe I just forgot about this part. And then about 10 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely the wrong movie, but it was too late to go back and change it at that point, so we just went ahead and did this one.
And I honestly really liked it. It was funny because it was also a like found footage kind of movie, which is your favorite, which is why I was so surprised when you were like, no, that's not the right movie.
I
I was like,
know.
you were meant to watch it, I think.
I guess so. Yeah, it was kind of weird that it turned out to be found footage because it definitely did seem like something that I would pick. So, yeah, I guess this just is more of a common myth in European countries than it is here in America of this like dark advent calendar.
Which is interesting because our grandmother, our Oma, is right off the boat from Germany, and she was unfamiliar with Krampus when I brought him up.
Yeah, that is really weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her when I talk to her again if maybe she knows Belsnickel instead. Like, though her
Maybe.
family didn't seem like the kind of Christmassy type.
Well, they had more important things to worry about with,
Yeah,
their
not for Germany.
farm being taken over by Nazis and
Yeah.
yeah. All that all that stuff. Okay, yeah, so I guess we'll just get into this movie. So this movie premiered at Fright Fest Halloween in 2024 and then later saw wider release around the 2024 holiday season. So it's a pretty new movie.
And you can see that with like the subtle shade they throw at YouTube sometimes.
Yeah, it's very topical. Definitely seemed like a fairly low budget movie, but I think they did a pretty good job with what they had.
Definitely.
So, right from the start, the film introduces us to Haley, who is a paranormal YouTuber obsessed with urban legends and supernatural curiosities. She seems to be trying to escape the mundane and also some family trauma. So, she's always on the lookout for something that will draw views, and she's really trying to build this like YouTube internet family to kind of take the place of the family that she lost. And she mentions at the time that she starts filming that she has 100 subscribers. So you can tell it's still a new channel she's trying to build up. And so that kind of makes sense as to why she's willing to take on this crazy challenge.
But that's just a reminder, guys, we have less subscribers than this fictional character. So,
Yes.
like and subscribe, please.
Yes. Yeah, YouTube is really tough. So yeah,
Yeah.
so she's doing her best and so she comes upon this, I guess it's her
Krampus.
friend that tells her, "Oh, I've heard about this legend of like this not haunted advent calendar, but it's got some kind of paranormal aspect to it where it seems to be like linked to the devil." So she interviews her friend who basically gives her like one sentence about it and then he has to go back into work.
He definitely worked at a restaurant. I'm just gonna say, I've seen that chain smoke, like one drag, a full cigarette to the face.
Yeah, he's like, "All right, I gotta go." So she finds one of these calendars on like the dark web and pays for it with crypto, which I thought was kind of funny. Um,
That that actually brings in my favorite character in the movie, her friend Charlie.
yeah, Charlie is her cameraman slash co-host, and he seems like a good guy. He seems to really care about her. He seems kind of like the only person that's really in her corner at this time in her life.
And he was like, "You bought something with Bitcoin off the dark web, and you think that that entire sentence is a good idea."
Yeah, and they say that she spent $500 on it. So you're like, okay, it's got some value. You can buy all kinds of weird stuff on the dark web. So she goes to pick it up. She assumes she's going to meet the person who's selling it, but I guess he just dropped off and then called her and was like, "Hey, this is what you need to do." Just gave her some like quick and dirty instructions and then that was it.
Well, I think the issue with the drop off was she had the camera out. Because
Oh, yeah.
when you called, he was like, "Are you filming? Why are you filming?"
Right, yeah. So that makes sense. And at first we don't really understand why he would necessarily be upset about that, but it is the dark web, so people don't
Yeah.
really want to be on camera when they're selling stuff on the dark web.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, he basically is like, the guy's name is Mark, and
Yes.
the instructions that he gives her is that you have to open all 24 doors in order at midnight by candlelight. You cannot miss a day. It has to be midnight, or it seems like midnight or after, and by candlelight. And the challenge has to be completed by the next day when you open the next calendar.
Right. So you have like 24 hours basically to complete each challenge. And at first, Haley is like, "I'm not scared. This is going to be fun." She's just really, you can tell she just really wants this YouTube thing to work. So she's trying to kind of act all tough. And she's like, "I'm not scared." But then when she goes to open the first door, she definitely hesitates for a minute. And she's just really thinking, what if it's true? What if the legends are true? But she ends up doing it anyway. And
Meanwhile, Charlie is against this the whole time.
yes, Charlie is like, "This is so stupid. Why are you doing this?"
This is very like you and me coded, where like I'd be like, "Natasha, you shouldn't do that." And you'd be like, "I'm not scared." It's like our whole childhood in a nutshell.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have a sibling type relationship.
I think from a few things they say, they've been friends since like childhood.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And so she does the first challenge, and paranormal things start happening immediately afterwards. Like she hears a sound downstairs, she goes downstairs, and there's all these electronics going off in her living room. Her dad's fast asleep on the couch, so they're like, "Whoa, okay, off to a quick start with this one."
And you have to wonder because when they open it gives a warning like don't do this. Why does nobody listen to the warnings?
Yeah, because you just never know, especially these days, like, that's very, like, marketing gimmicky, like, for all we know, this could have been some kind of, like, marketing gimmick, right? Like, the last challenge could have been like, "Oh, you win a VIP experience," or something like that.
It's just a QR code.
Yeah. We just don't know in this day and age because people are always trying to, like, one up, like,
Yeah.
marketing stuff. So yeah, so we're not going to go through every single one. A lot of them are duplicative, but we'll kind of mention some of the ones that are a little crazy. And this is actually a pretty short movie. I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes or something. So, if
Yeah.
you're looking for something quick to watch, I think it's worth it. And it's on Tubi, so it's free.
One thing I did want to mention is there is sort of like a narrator to all of this.
Oh, yes.
D- as Natasha knows, I watch these movies like 3 times. So, think about Rocky Horror, like the detective who teaches you the time warp. There's kind of that aspect where every once in a while it'll go back to he was actually Haley's professor, and he throws a lot of shade at her throughout this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
he
oh,
was her professor and neighbor, I think. He lived like down the street. Yeah, it reminded me of Hell House LLC when they keep going back to like the reporters and all the like experts that they interview. They're like, "You want to know what I think happened? I have no idea."
for those
Or-
of age and so inclined, take a shot every time Natasha brings up Hell House.
yeah. That's probably the last time I'll bring it up in this situation. Really no other similarities here, but that'd be funny. If I think of any other ones, I'll let you know.
But one other thing I noticed is you'll see that the advent calendar looks very similar to a normal one, except there was one thing because in the early beginning, as Natasha mentioned, they equate Krampus to Satan,
Yes.
but they have just a regular star on top of the advent calendar. And I'm like, you really miss the opportunity to have a pentagram.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know why it just bothered me. I was like, you really, they did so, like a lot very well, but they had such a good opportunity there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was a star on the one in the other movie. I wonder if that's based on some kind of research that they did about what it was supposed to have looked like.
I think in the one that you showed me, the little preview of the other movie, it was like a scary man.
Yeah, that was a I would recommend that one as well, definitely. That one's called The Advent Calendar, and I think it's maybe in German or French, but it has subtitles. But anyway, back to this one. So
So
once Haley begins opening the doors on the advent calendar, the horror escalates incrementally. Like it kind of builds up slowly at first. So the audience, her audience and her viewers might be thinking like, is it just kind of her messing with people? Because these are things like flickering lights, knocking sounds, music suddenly playing. These are all kind of things that are classic horror movie tropes or signs of a
yeah.
spirit being around. So was she just kind of faking this all for views, right? Is kind of what I was thinking at first.
Especially because the first doors are seemingly so easy and simple.
Yeah.
Like I think the first couple are walk around your Christmas tree 3 times
Uh-huh.
this way, 3 times that way, and one was like do the tree again. Like Natasha said, a lot of it is repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah. So at first it all seems kind of benign, but when you think about the things that you're doing, so making circles, that's kind of a way in like I don't know if it's so much like ancient pagan as just like modern witchcraft where that's how people will create a space where they'll conduct rituals and stuff. And then at one point she opens a window, so that's kind of symbolic of like letting a spirit in. So at first maybe if you don't have an understanding of these things, you're like, oh, these are just random challenges is what they call them, but I think they all do have some kind of meaning.
And you would think somebody who's so invested into the occult, especially disproving it, would know that like she's doing witchcraft. Like you're doing witchcraft.
Yeah, I that's kind of always how it goes in these movies. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't believe, and then by the time you believe, it's too late.
Yeah.
So there is one point where we see Haley's dad, he kind of like disappears into their shed, and she opens the door, or she walks in, and like he's not there, but there is a well in the shed.
Weird.
Um, which was really weird. I'm like, oh my God, did they just like kill the dad? But then the next day he's there. We're like, okay, well, he's not dead. So was it just some kind of weird trick of the eyes or like what? I don't know. That was kind of when it seemed to kind of shift from like a fun game to, oh, this is like a life or death situation, possibly.
And there's a subplot in this movie that is very sad. It kind of all comes together at the end, but we first see her dad who is chain smoking, drunk, and 2 in the afternoon, not doing great. And there you can see that he loves his daughter, but like he is very lost. We find out that she lost her mother about a year ago. So there's constantly arguing and bickering, and I believe she mumbles multiple times, I'm 26 years old.
Yeah, so he's trying to be kind of controlling of her, and he's just obviously not in a good state. So their relationship is very strained, and we find out why a little bit later. Up until about day 9, like we were saying, the task seemed mostly harmless, but when Haley carves the K into her arm, it felt to me like a turning point.
Well, so me for the turning point was day 6 was when the first time they say don't sleep.
Mm, yeah, because you're kind of weakening your body.
One night without sleep is the equivalent of like 3 cocktails or something like that. So she's already a little out of it.
Yeah, and I was thinking like, oh, well, can you just sleep later in the day? But I guess not, because each thing is like a 24-hour cycle. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but as it repeated, I was like, oh, he's weakening her body. But I did think that the carving the K into the arm was like a blood ritual, basically. Weirdly, the next morning, Haley's dad doesn't seem like himself at all. He's up early, he's dressed nicely, he's sober, he quit smoking, and he's looking for a job in the newspaper. So, which was all very unusual from what we've seen up until this point. It becomes evident that this is related to Haley's wish that she made when she walked around her tree the first, or I think it was maybe the second task. But sadly, these changes will only last for one day.
And these changes and this wish is kind of made to mentally torture you so you can see like what you really want in life and you're so close to it but you can't have it, but you're stuck with it for like this extended period of time. It's very tragic in her case.
Yeah, it's definitely not a benevolent situation.
Yeah.
And so the film plays like a supernatural version of the Blue Whale Challenge or other like viral dare phenomenon. And
That's what
inside,
it's called. Thank you. That
yeah,
was driving me nuts.
yeah. So instead of likes and shares, each challenge from the calendar deepens Haley's descent, basically. And she just keeps getting worse and worse. So she's getting less and less sleep. She's doing things to her body, and she becomes increasingly isolated both in her relationships and in her grasp of reality, mostly due to probably the lack of sleep as the countdown continues.
And she also starts getting more and more like genuinely ill. In the beginning, it's very easy to miss. It starts out with like as soon as she gets the calendar, she has a fever. And as the days progress, she gets sicker and sicker,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
which
yeah.
comes back later.
Yeah, she thinks it's just a flu or something, but yeah, you can kind of see her getting worse and worse. And I thought it was cool that we got a little nod to the Blair Witch Project when Haley's dad is found facing the wall in her room right next to the Krampus calendar. But luckily, he's just standing up sleeping, I guess. So I guess that's better than the Blair Witch situation.
I said that exactly to Lance. I was like, very Blair Witch.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think at one point in the beginning, they said that the calendar can affect everybody who lives in the house as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it seemed pretty apparent that it was affecting him and Haley, not Charlie as much, but we'll get to that because it does affect him at some point.
when one of the challenges was to go around the house with the tip of her finger to connect the house to the calendar, that could
Right.
definitely. And her dad's already in a weakened state.
Exactly. Yeah.
Though I don't know what I would do if I woke up and like dad was standing in the corner staring at the wall.
You know what's funny is there is another Hell House link there, but I won't say it because I think it all came from Blair Witch. Assume it all came from the Blair Witch Project, but if you know, you know, as they say. That is another Hell House thing as well. So this point is definitely feels like another escalation where Haley's body is clearly fighting the demonic, though she doesn't seem to fully understand that yet. Her mystery illness continues to get worse, and she goes outside to go to the post office to send letters to Krampus, and she starts projectile vomiting, and then one of her teeth falls out. So this plus the lack of sleep, it's clear that her body is weakening, and it's not going to be able to fight off the devil, right? Or Krampus. I'm not sure why they're interchangeable in this scenario because I haven't heard that in other lore, but it seems like in this movie they are one and the same.
I just like to think in the scene where she's at the mailbox and she throws up that the gentleman who is actually just trying to like mail something and he doesn't realize that this is a movie. Look, we've all projectile vomited in the snow before. It's fine.
Oh, God.
I know, Natasha, that gives you like the ick.
That is true, unfortunately.
But so one thing about Haley though is it goes on. She does admit that things are happening, but she keeps going. You would think with even as a debunker, with as much knowledge of folklore that she has, she would be like, maybe it's time to stop.
Yeah, so I think her connection to the calendar is becoming increasingly personal and obsessive. Like she's becoming obsessive with this thing. And I think that little glimpse of her dad being back to normal really messed with her psychologically. And it also mirrors these classic horror arcs where a protagonist's fixation with something spurred by just curiosity or skepticism or like that little glimpse, becomes their undoing, basically.
It kind of made me think of The Shining. Another thing that it again is something so small that you could see it like slip. She keeps thinking that her mom's spirit is there and her mom's spirit is involved in what's going on.
Yes, because one night she hears some sounds and then she opens up her attic and she finds this book that her mom used to read to her. So she thinks that her mom is maybe not doing this, but her mom is around.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's sad.
yeah, and we all know that typically these kind of demonic spirits will find your weakness and play off of it. So to us viewing, we're like, clearly that's not your mom, but to her, she's like, mom is
But
around, she's watching over me.
what if it's mom adjacent? Like two things can be true at once.
It's possible, yeah,
I
but
think
you,
that's what
I don't
she's
know.
trying to convince herself.
Right. Let me get to kind of another another point. I think this is really the tipping point.
Okay, I
Um,
think we might want to do a trigger warning for the one if I'm thinking it's the one you're going to talk
oh,
about.
yes, so this involves harming an animal. So if I did not personally want to watch this, I only watched it because we were going to talk about it. But yeah, you might want to skip like, I don't know, a minute or something if you don't want to hear about this.
And you
Um,
don't see anything in the movie.
True. That's true. So Haley goes over to Charlie's house when she's not there. The mom is like, "Oh yeah, go ahead," because she just said she needed to get some camera stuff. And then we find out that she is there because one of the challenges is to kill a living being, and she decides to kill Charlie's hamster, and she justifies that it's really old, it's really mean. She brought a syringe, I think just so with like an air bubble in it or something, so it'll be painless, and all these things that she's trying to justify. But at this point, I think we all recognize that she's just like way past the point of return on this, even though she doesn't see it yet, still.
So, on this, I believe the actual one was to kill an animal, which again, literally a blood sacrifice. You're literally sacrificing animals. I mean, come on. You're choosing to take your friend's pet. Like, win a fish at a carnival, give it 2 days.
That's
It'll
true.
die
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah, unfortunately, those fish are not treated very well. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty bad situation. And this also definitely ties into German paganism, was very heavy on like ritual sacrifices. So it's like, okay, it's escalating. First it was her just carving the K, which, definitely some kind of blood ritual, and then making a sacrifice, and it's all building up, and just for some reason she's just not seeing the problem.
During all of this, Charlie's trying to talk some sense into her. We find out that Charlie's dad was a psychic and he sees that her arm and he's like, you need to stop. I mean, at one point they get into a very like big argument and Charlie's like, I'm leaving. And she's like, good, don't come back.
Yeah,
And then, which is big words to say to someone whose pet you just killed.
yeah, that I mean, and it's then I was thinking too, like, does he not watch the videos?
I mean,
Because
he's
then he
there
would have
for
seen it.
most of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's the one that edits them, but I thought, oh, I would have thought that he would have seen that. But yeah, so after she does that, Mark contacts her, the guy who sold her the Krampus calendar in the first place, and he reveals that he had gone up to day 23, and the reason he sold the calendar was he just didn't want to be alone in it anymore, but he couldn't bring himself to do the 24th challenge. So he's looking really bad. He's like all sweaty and tired, and he's basically like in hell.
He has exactly what Haley has, and what is described as you have the fever because you're above the fires of hell.
Right. So then see, this is like one of those things that I'm like, I don't know how to say this for YouTube. He offs himself on the video call with her after describing just how miserable he is.
Not before saying Merry Christmas, though, so he was a good sport.
Yeah, but it's just like, why? How is that going to help her? Because she already started it and you have to finish it. So I don't know. I didn't feel like that was going to help her in any way.
I don't think he wanted to help her. I think that he felt guilty and he thought that maybe he would feel less guilty or maybe it would atone him because he told the truth.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess. That's probably the only thing that makes sense.
Also, not what I expected a guy from dark web to look like.
Well,
Just
that's
like
a
an
scary
old
thing, right?
middle-aged
Is
man.
all these dark web people look like normal people. So, again, for some reason, she's undeterred by this, and she goes ahead to perform the next task, which is literally inviting Krampus into her body. So she gets naked, she's sitting in front of her fireplace, and she invites him in, which is, again, a ritual.
Okay,
The video flashes for a second to a man who then disappears, but only Charlie saw him. Well, I guess he also captured it on video, but Haley did not see him.
hated it. And I believe that's when Charlie leaves and is told, like, don't come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Which at that point, like, it's not. At what point is it her talking? Which again kind of reminds me of the Blair Witch Project. Because doesn't something like that happen in the Blair Witch Project?
Like what?
Like they are talking, but it's not them who's talking. Like they're almost possessed.
Oh, that's in the second one. Yeah, Blair,
Okay.
or well, technically the third one. I think we can count out the second one in the lore, but the third one in Blair Witch, yeah, the witch takes on the voices of like other people and stuff. So and their bodies too, presumably. That's how they reeled him in. And then after Charlie leaves, she goes up into her attic again and she finds that book that she had left at her mom's gravesite. So she's like, "Oh, this is my mom."
Parts in this movie where I'm just like, I feel like we shouldn't be seeing this as a family dynamic, and to look at it from she's putting this stuff on YouTube. It's a very interesting subplot.
Yeah, I mean, she technically does say it isn't all her mom, but she feels strongly that her mom's spirit is still there.
Oh,
So,
I meant more so when she was like, "You guys keep asking where my mom is," and she's just like at her grave.
yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Or when she was like, "You guys keep asking about my dad," and she goes to the kitchen table where he's like chain smoking and drunk in the middle of the day and like bothering him.
And he's in a robe, yeah. Very personal, which I guess maybe when you have a really small following, like maybe you're more okay kind of with being personal. Because again, I do think she's trying to build a community, like an internet family, you know?
Yeah, like trying to build that parasocial relationship.
Yeah. As the days continue, her appearance and health continue to deteriorate, and she starts pulling clumps of hair out and like fainting. So it's getting worse.
Yeah,
And then we have another challenge later on, which is called the Face of Fear challenge, in which she basically confronts her dad for his what she feels is his part in why her mom took her own life. It
oh,
seemed
okay.
like
I actually missed what the challenge was both times I watched it. Is that why she was like, "It's your fault. It's your fault. You were so mean to her."
exactly. Yeah, that was part of the Face of Fear challenge.
And that's where we learn how her mom died,
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty
which
unclear this whole time.
and was very the professor guy just is not great with emotional things because he's like, yeah, her mom was one of those people that would talk to the air, and I saw her one day, and she was just talking to the air, and then she set herself on fire at a
Yeah.
park.
Like a crazy way to go. But yeah, it was a pretty like jarring and obviously she felt like she needed to confront him and it was crazy because when he was in that kind of normal state for a day, he seemed like a really nice guy. So I get the impression that that maybe even isn't how he is when he is quote unquote normal. Like I think that's maybe what she was thinking is kind of an ideal, even though it was supposed to be going back to the way things were. So
And on top of that, I do sometimes feel bad for the dad because it's mentioned that it's only been a year. Imagine it's only been 1 year and your daughter is like looking at you saying, "It's your fault mom killed herself."
well, clearly it was weighing heavily on him already, and he probably
Yeah.
already felt that way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very, very sad situation. But I guess on the upside, Charlie does forgive Haley and goes back over to her house again. And they note that after this, what they catch on video, he's never seen again.
It
So
is
who the
not an
hell knows?
upside for our dude Charlie.
Yeah, true. Yeah, for
Justice
Haley,
for
it's
Charlie.
yeah, I don't know what the hell happens to him. So
Well,
Haley calls Charlie into her room because she wants to show him something. And right away I'm like, "Oh no,
No, no, no.
this is bad." Yeah. So she's like, "Oh, look under my bed. Or she's under her bed and she's like, there's someone on top of my bed. So he looks up and he sees her like sleeping on the bed. And then he looks under the bed again and whatever was there is gone. And then Haley's then standing in the
A
doorway.
third area,
Right, from a third area, Haley is in the doorway and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing in here?" So something is fucking with him and I don't know we don't know what happens to him after that.
all right,
Um
Charlie.
yeah, and so I'm not going to ruin the final challenge, but I will just say that she was disturbingly calm knowing what she was about to do. It wasn't as big of a thing as I thought it was going to be, because this is kind of like the crescendo, like the final challenge, but I mean it was, but like the moment itself was like weirdly calm.
Which is kind of what she describes, but we'll skip that part. I will say the narrator professor once again comes around and talks about how there is no 25th day because nobody lives to see it.
Right. Yeah. And so we find out why. So she falls to the floor. She's exhausted. She hasn't really been sleeping. Her body is just very weak. And she drifts off to sleep. And then it says at 3:43, which I thought was weird because I'm like, why wouldn't you do 3:33? That's supposed to be
Yeah.
when it's a more of a mockery, right, of like the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit.
Yeah.
Um, a woman appears, but we don't see her face. We just see her legs at her feet and extends a hand to her. So we assume that it was her mom because she kind of perked up and took her hand. And from what we can figure out, because they don't show any of this, she leads her over to the window, and this is the window that she initially knocked on to start the challenge. And so, again, we don't see her, but we assume it looks like her mom, and then a second later, we see some furry legs and like a cackle. So we assume that it's the devil playing tricks on her. And we learn that Haley throws herself out that window, although she does survive. And so she's found by this narrator guy. So they take her to the hospital, she survives, but after she recovers, she spends some time in prison before she's moved to a psychiatric hospital.
And
So,
the window that she jumps out of is actually also the window that in one of the challenges is play dead underneath the window that you're eventually going to jump out of.
yeah, so I think she knocks on it, and then, yeah, there's the play dead, and then she jumps out of it. So that's why there is no 25th day, because presumably you die
You're
on the
you're
24th
supposed to
challenge.
die.
Yeah. So, but they say that Haley's in just this like kind of unreachable state, like she's not there.
She's catonic or catatonic.
Catatonic, yeah. And so, with any good folklore movie, we learn that one of the few remaining Krampus calendars ended up in the hands of another young person who was seen circling his tree in a video on social media, and the legend lives on.
And unfortunately, while she did go viral, that was her goal.
Yes.
It was not in the best way. And the 24th door, when the police found it, no longer had the original challenge in it, but it was a picture Haley drew because Haley was drawing pictures of each challenge for her viewers. And it was a picture of her looking with, like, she still had soul in her eyes, looking out a window, like begging for help, like she's stuck in the calendar almost.
Yeah, presumably the devil did get her soul, even though she
Yes.
didn't die.
And I
Uh,
believe there was still like 32 unfound calendars. So the guy in Russia, that's where they say the videos from in Russia, either found one of these calendars or they're going off of the videos that probably got downloaded before YouTube shut her channel down.
Yeah, I they said there was 50 to start, and then over the years some of them had disappeared or were destroyed or whatever. So yeah, there's a handful still out there, or more than a handful still out there. I don't know that the challenge would work without the calendar, like the physical calendar. I'm not sure. We would not recommend trying that either way.
Yeah, either way, like just don't do it. When something
Yeah,
says danger, no, just think about it a little bit. If it has
yeah,
to
it's
do with
like
like folklore or something.
it was like that elevator challenge. Remember a few years ago, or
Oh my
God, probably a
God,
decade
yeah.
ago at this point. Yeah, and that's what they think happened to
That woman.
Elisa Lamb. Yeah, that she was playing that challenge. Although ultimately they believe that she just drowned because she was in a not good mental state because she wasn't taking her medication. But um, yeah, there's all kinds of weird internet and I guess pre-internet challenges out there that just, I don't think they need to be done.
The people who do these challenges, I ask you one question. What are you going to do when it works?
I don't think they ever think it's going to work. I think like this
Exactly.
girl Haley, they're like, "Oh, I'm smarter than this. I'm above this. This isn't real." But you just don't necessarily know that.
Yeah, I mean, why do you need to fuck around and find out? There's so much already going on.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we do not find out what happened to Charlie ever. And Haley is still in a catatonic state. And I don't know, just buy the dollar chocolate advent calendars.
Yeah. Yeah, even bell snickling would be much safer than this. I mean, well, in this day and age, honestly, you might get shot if you show up at someone's door looking like that. So maybe tell your neighbors, get them in on it first. Maybe it's a
I think
block
there's
thing.
somewhere in Pennsylvania you can go.
Or, yeah, do the Krampus turkey trot type thing or whatever. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty decent movie.
I
Um,
liked it. It was different from what we normally watch, which is it was still like kind of psychological, but it had that like little campy quality that wasn't too much.
yeah, and it wasn't like overly gory or anything. It was definitely more of like a psychological thriller type movie.
Yeah, like it's something I would let medium-sized one watch by themselves, but it's still interesting enough that my husband was interested in it.
Yeah, it is a pretty unique topic. Like I said, there is another movie about it, but those are the only two that I've heard of. And I mean, how many movies are there about like Bad Santa or Krampus even? So I think it is a pretty unique topic to cover. And I guess they were in England somewhere, even though Haley didn't have an accent, which I thought was so weird the whole time.
She did on and off. I made that note earlier in like my head when I was watching it again. She did on and off. And it sounded Irish to me. And I was like, is this in Ireland?
Yeah, I know it seemed her dad and Charlie seemed to have like a British accent. I
Yeah.
thought, but then she did say that that is her dad because I was thinking maybe her and her mom were in America and then they moved over to Europe or whatever and they met, but it seemed like that was actually her dad. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of strange that she was the only one that didn't have an accent.
I wonder where this was like filmed in, if there was just two actual actors from that area and she was just there to be the star.
I almost felt like her accent when it came in was like trying to be an English accent, but it was actually more like Russian or something.
I could see
I don't
that.
know. Yeah, it was kind of strange. It did seem like it was filmed. I mean, at least the set looked like a typical like London suburb. Like it looked very much like was it The Conjuring?
Mm.
I don't know. Whenever you see like a typical London suburb with all the little townhouses, like that's what it looked like. So I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was kind of strange that she was the only one that didn't have an accent, but it didn't really take away from the movie in any
Yeah.
way. If you're looking for a movie to watch, maybe on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I think this is a pretty good one. Like I said, it's pretty short. And then maybe you'll want to also watch the Advent Calendar if you can find that one and compare them. The Advent Calendar is not found footage from what I remember. It's more of like a cinematic, I don't know, standard type movie. And I think it's a little bit longer, but yeah, it's a good one to maybe throw in the mix if you're kind of sick of like National Lampoon and A Christmas Story and all that stuff.
And on that note, happy holidays and stay strange.